Hi everybody, welcome back. Hey Village. So excited to have I've had a few of my Costa Rica group buds on lately. You're the third, I think. I think you're the third. So I'm excited to have you. But before we get into that, will you please introduce yourself to the village?
Absolutely. Good morning, first of all, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Of course.
Cocoa butter and communion.
Mm.
I love that. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that um, I was adopted as a grandparent to a beautiful young baby, and my nickname is Cocoa Butter, and so she calls me Coco.
Really?
Yes, so I feel so at home.
Well, it's so interesting because when I was a kiddo, like a little kid, my family called me Chi Chi,
Um,
and they called me that forever. And then there was my cousin had a baby, and he could not say Chiyoko because I guess he was trying to be formal. So he started calling me Coco. And so all of the kids after him, so he's like 28, 29 now. All of the kids after him call me Coco.
that is so beautiful. So, from one cocoa to another, I am so delighted to be with you.
Yes,
I have
welcome.
deep admiration for you and respect and love. Well, I am Jenee Johnson. I am recently concluded my career at the San Francisco Department of Public Health, where at the end of my career, I was the program innovation leader, mindfulness, trauma, racial healing. And I worked there for 21 years. But in total, I have had an eclectic career path and have worked 45. But at my heart, I am an artist, a writer, um, a mindfulness teacher, and a human flourishing champion. And I am at this crossroads. I am at a point of closing a book. When you close your work life, you have an opportunity to open a new book. It's deeper than a chapter, it's an entire new volume on your
Mm.
life. So that's where I am. I'm volume making right now.
I love, I love. I've never heard it being described as that. Like the next step. We always say the next step or a new career path or whatever. But I love the volume.
Yes, because I think that I'm really having this chance to claim my values. And one of my values is beauty. And the beauty that's in life. There is so much to behold, there's so much for us to enjoy. It's there to sustain us. And I weave that into my work. When people come to a program that I am offering, I endeavor to make it sensory, um, uh, attractive in all ways. And because we're energetic. And what fuels us is love and joy and beauty. And I am not absent of an understanding of the levels of trauma and distress and tragedy and, dare I say, warfare that exist. But we are not here. Our calling to be on the earth is not to center that. We navigate those things.
Mm.
But the creator, in the creation records of the sacred text, the Holy Bible, upon creation, looked upon the creation and said, "It is good. It is good. It's good." So I'm leaning all up into that goodness. And that's what I want to remind us about is
Yeah.
how good life is. And so that is who I am, Jenee Johnson, mindfulness teacher. I was selected by Mindful Magazine in 2020 2021, I think, as one of the women innovators in the mindfulness movement.
Mm.
And they graced me, they graced my photo and a big spread on me on their cover of Mindful Magazine in 2020. And so I have some juice up in this mindfulness neighborhood. My house, I got a nice house up in this neighborhood. People like to come on over.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Well, so that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, tell me, I have been, and the Costa Rica folks will know this, but when we had to introduce ourselves in the welcome ceremony, it wasn't just the regular, my name is Jenee, my name is Chiyoko. It was to tell everyone where you're from, where your people are from,
Mm,
what is your connection. And I would love for you to share with us where you're from, where your people are from. What is your connection?
yes. So I always say, first of all, I am from the heavenlies.
Mm,
Like I am an expression of the divine on the earth. And I came through a beautiful lineage. My paternal side is the late Reverend David Windsor David Gaskin.
mhm.
Um, he was an associate pastor at Metropolitan AME Church Girl in Harlem. Harlem. Okay.
Let's
So,
go, AME.
okay, I am a New Yorker.
Mhm.
And his lineage came from Barbados. The Gaskin, my paternal grandfather came from Barbados, immigrated from Barbados, and my grandmother, she immigrated from Charleston, South Carolina. She was Geechee,
Mm,
and she had
okay.
that little accent. And her mother, uh, Sarah, was hired as a maid to a Lutheran minister in Brooklyn. And so she traveled with my grandmother, Pauline, and they migrated from Charleston to Brooklyn. And my grandmother said she would never, never return to the South again because of the horrific level of violence put upon our people. And she never returned. On my mother's side is my full out Caribbean side. Both of my grandparents are from the island of St. Martin. And that is my ancestral home that I return to, numerous times. I'll be going again in the spring.
Mm,
And my grandparents, along with an entire village from the French side called French Quarter, they all immigrated and landed in Staten Island, New York. And so I could walk up and down this avenue, Montgomery Avenue, and go from house to house and visit. And everybody's feeding you and hugging you up and loving you. And one of the uncles was always on the corner giving us quarters. And back then, girl, a quarter you could get something for a quarter.
you can get a few
You
something.
could get a lot. And so I grew up on Staten Island in a very vibrant Black community, although Staten Island, New York, is one of the five boroughs of New York City, is probably the most conservative as we fast forward to today,
Yeah.
and the most, it's the least diverse of all the five boroughs. I think that is absolutely changing. But
Yeah.
I grew up on Staten Island, grew up in New York. I danced as a youngster. I was in a dance theater called Brothers and Sisters United Black Repertory Theater. My cousin was one of the founding members of the Dance Theater of Harlem, and she and another cousin started a dance company for young people.
Mhm.
Back then in New York, we had the neighborhood arts movement. So artists would come to the neighborhood through various programs, writers, dancers, actors, and teach us. We had Jazzmobile. Jazz would come and a mobile with jazz musicians. would come and park itself in a park, and we would go hear the music. See, we were being cultivated to not only be participants in the culture, but to be great audience members. So I am very proud of my New York, Caribbean, Southern roots and the people that I came through. And I must say that my grandfather, he came from the Dutch side of the island, and he worked as a porter. He was one of those Pullman porters.
Mm-hmm.
And the man who owned the rail company was called George Pullman. And they, instead of calling all the men by their names, my grandfather's name was Charles. They called all the black men George. See, this is the degradation.
Mm-hmm.
And this man worked as a Pullman porter. Then he took those skills and then worked as a porter on this avenue on Staten Island called Richmond Avenue. And he'd go from building to building and shovel coal. That's what they did back then, is there were coal furnaces to heat the buildings. And when my mother was graduating from high school, he asked her, "Do you want to go to college?" And she said, "Yeah, I guess so." This is her telling me the story. And she got into Howard University, but she could not go because her mom was ill and she needed to stay home. So my grandfather paid out of pocket for her to go to NYU. She went to NYU, class of 1954, School of Business and Commerce. That's what it was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm from people who know how to get it on up, girl. We don't sit inside of the white gaze. We understand our celestial nature on earth, and we make things happen. So that's who I'm from.
Thank you. That is beautiful. And I love, so, I first of all, I call you Miss Jenee because
Oh, you're so sweet.
you are my elder. I was like, I'm gonna call you Jenee. Like, when we
You
were
are
hanging,
so sweet.
I was like, I don't call, no. And one of the things that I have always loved from very early is just listening to my elders speak about their experiences. And most of my other peers, like when their grandparents would speak, you'd be like, "Oh Lord, here they go again." My grandfather would sometimes share the same story over and over and over,
Yes.
and I had it memorized where I would help him speak, and he would act like he didn't even hear me. So I love, and he would keep going, but I love hearing the stories and the connection and the roots, and things like all the black men were called George, where
Yes.
you're just like, what in the what? And the
Yes.
adversity that these people had to go through, and people like your family immigrating in
Yes.
from another country to get their start and to really take part of that idea of the American dream. I think it is absolutely lovely. So thank you for sharing
You're welcome. You're
that. Mm.
welcome.
Well, what book are you currently reading?
Oh, this is this yummy book. It's called See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love by Valerie Kaur. It's Kaur. And
Okay.
I went to a retreat recently, and the woman leading yoga um, shared some of her writing. And I was like, I have got to get this book because I think it's a book you would enjoy also because it's narrative and story and has a very poetic frame of how she speaks. But because so much of my work lands on love, this whole notion of a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. And I just believe that underneath everything that I do, there are two vibrant values. One is love and one is joy.
Mm,
Next to and those uphold sovereignty and liberation and freedom. But if I could, I'll just read you this little portion
yeah, go
where
ahead.
she says, "Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving. A choice we make over and over again. Love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. It engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love.
Hmm. That's lovely.
So that's what I'm reading right now. And I find it very nourishing. I love when I um, come across another simpatico soul that can reflect to me what I'm thinking or has given it given it thought and words that also um, elevate me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Well, what was a song or songs that were played in your household or genre of music
Mm,
when you were a child or a teenager?
mm. Well, let me just tell you this. I grew up in the age where we did not have AirPods. So music was played loud, and I mean loud, through the whole house.
Hmm.
And um, I grew up in a neighborhood where we were the first ones to live in what is called the projects. Now, mind you, my parents went to college, but the projects back in those days was a stepping stone to families, particularly people who had been in the service. My dad had been in the Navy.
Hmm.
And so we lived where there were apartment after apartment, and there was a balcony, and you could open the door, and then people walking by would hear your music. And so you were hearing music not only from your own house, but everybody else's house too. So what was played at that time, so this is circa when I was a child, in the 60s. I was a child in the 60s and a teenager in the 70s.
Mm.
Motown, all kinds of soul music, and jazz.
Mm.
Count Basie, John Coltrane, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. Um, all the jazz greats were played in my home, as well as whatever was on the radio.
Mhm.
And we had several black radio stations. So there was WNJR in New Jersey, and that was that radio station that was just the rough and rugged, raw, James Brown, because these were folks that had just migrated from the South. And then you had WBLS in New York, was just a little more the sophisticated soul. And so it was black music. So that's the answer, black music. Of all genres. And then my stepfather came into our lives, who also came from St. Thomas, which is an American territory, but he came Caribbean man, and he liked classical music. So
Oh.
we also listened to Debussy and all these operas, and he would say, that's Leontine Price. Like he would say, "Oh, look, we sing that. We do that too, sis. We do everything."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you were a kid, you were listening to things like jazz. Because jazz, I had somebody on the show. Her name is Chi Chi. She was talking about jazz being an acquired taste, basically. Like, as a little kid, you're kind of like, what is all of this going on? Were there music that was played where you're like, oh, this is horrible? And then now you're like, I have such an appreciation for this?
Well, actually, I must say that's no,
Mm.
because, for example, um, when Windsor Gaskin, the father that was my biological dad, um, played Count Basie, which was a big band orchestra, a big band, jazz band, he would say, "Listen to that. You hear that sound?" He'd
Mm.
say, "That's Eric Dixon. That's your mother's cousin." He would, "You hear that? That's this and that. Yeah. So it's a cultivation. So the acquisition of the love of our own stuff for me happened as a young person. So
Mm-hmm.
that when I became a mom, um, I had a boombox in my son's bedroom, and I would play Miles Davis at night
Mm.
and John Coltrane so he could just hear it.
Yeah.
Because I believe that this is my formula that I use in my work: exposure, experience, embodiment. I need to
Mm.
trademark that.
Mm-hmm. You do.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone
Exposure.
just asked me that. Can I use that? I said, let me trademark that first. Um, but um, it's in our exposure. And that's part of what is, I think, missing today is our exposure is so narrow and limited. And our exposure, not just to our own culture, but to even tactile things. We're not in nature.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting our feet on the grass. You know, we don't come across flowers. I go to Trader Joe's and I buy flowers, and I have flowers behind me right now. I have
Mm-hmm.
flowers in my dining room. I put flowers everywhere because these are the things that we're supposed to have. And it's the exposure that is missing. Our exposure line is very narrow. So for me, the taste was not acquired, but I would say it was cultivated.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Well, tell me, how did you get involved in mindfulness,
Mm,
trauma, and racial healing? What was
mm.
the catalyst for you, or has it always been cultivated?
Well, I'll tell you, mindfulness is interesting because I consider it a thread from my spiritual life. So I studied the Bible for many, many years and then recently was ordained um, in a gift ministry as a teacher. But so part of my spiritual life was quiet time. Be still and know that I am God.
Mm-hmm.
Stop your striving. Just be still and quiet. But it was through a friend who was getting her certification in mindfulness. She asked if she could come and do her practicum with my staff. And at the time, I was directing a Black maternal health program.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, come. And I was astounded by the beauty of this practice. So from that, I introduced mindfulness to the Black women that were in my program, and we called it quiet sitting because I learned that there was a doctor in West Oakland, Dr. Frank Staggers Jr., who had back in the 70s got a grant from National Institute of Health to study mindfulness worldwide. And he brought it back to his clinic in West Oakland back in the 70s and saw these tremendous results of the drop in stress levels, which then dot, 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 um, blood pressure, rates of diabetes, on it, all the things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or getting better health outcomes. And at first, they didn't want to give him the grant because they said Black people don't meditate. And he was like, yo, wait a minute. So fast forward, I brought it to the Black Infant Health Program. The arc of my career brought me to the Trauma Informed Initiative in the Department of Public Health, which looks at fostering wellness and resilience for the staff of the Department of Public Health. So I'm no longer outward facing to a population, but now I'm working on behalf of my colleagues. And I
Mm-hmm.
said to the leader, I think something is missing. I think it's mindfulness. And he said, Jenee, I think you're right. Go for it. And he and another leader just propped open the door and I ran with it. Brought in an organization that had cultivated mindfulness for the workforce, and we began to train and teach. Because mindfulness is well documented to have not only physiological and health benefits, but it helps us to access, now this is the part, greater levels of imagination, intuition, and intelligence. And fast forward in my research, in talking to Dr. Staggers and others, I learned that actually mindfulness was not Asian. The whole idea of mindfulness simply means being aware. There are a lot of practices that help us focus attention and be aware. Meditation is one of the most potent practices. But do
Mm-hmm.
you know that it is African? It
Yeah.
is African. On the on the hieroglyphics, on the drawings inside of the pyramid, that's us doing yoga, honey. That's us sitting, meditating. Africans migrated, left Africa hundreds of thousands of years ago, populated East and West Asia, and took these embodied practices with them.
Mm-hmm.
Our Asian brothers and sisters codified them in Hinduism and Buddhism.
Yeah.
So the root of all things, remember God said it is good, all things
Yeah.
started in Africa,
Yeah.
and we populated the entire world. But this practice is rooted in people of the earth. The whole notion of the can you imagine walking all those miles?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't just talking the whole time; they were walking mindfully,
Mm-hmm.
quietly. We see. I lived in the South for a year, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I do my walk on Sundays, and the black women would be on and men on the porch rocking,
Mm-hmm.
sitting quietly. What is that? That's mindfulness. The quiet sitting, the stillness, the bringing down of the noise so that you can just hear your own heartbeat, so that you can just see yourself living.
Yeah.
So I became a champion of that.
Hmm.
First for our black moms and then for my colleagues in public health. And San Francisco remains the only public health department in the country that has both a trauma informed program and mindfulness for the benefit of its employees. There are 22 mindfulness teachers that I left behind that are now being champions of this work, including doctors, therapists, health workers, a person in HR, just a variety of folk.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and I think even if you take it and throw it on Christianity, right? Like I can remember you're being told to even meditate on the word so that you can hear God, right?
Yes,
And so I think it's been within us for a very long time, but sometimes we get freaked out when we put other names on it. And it's like, well, you've been doing that forever.
yes. That's why Dr. Staggers, after he did all of his research, he came back and called it quiet sitting
Mhm.
because he didn't want people to bypass this wonderful practice because of the um, malignment of the practice, because people think it's, now you're going to open yourself to a demon and all that, girl. No. So he wanted to get rid of, take away all that. You're not emptying your mind. You are
Right.
simply quieting so that you can listen and
Absolutely.
be in touch not only with what your thoughts are, but with the sensations in your body, because your body also is registering all
Hmm.
of our experiences. And
Hmm.
it was in my training to be a mindfulness emotional intelligence teacher that I learned about the neuroscience principle of neuroplasticity, which says what we think, what we do, what we pay attention to with consistency is what shapes our brain and our thinking, and consequently, our whole experience in life. When I got a hold to that little bit of gem, then
Hmm.
it was on, because I said that is the key to our liberation. Think,
Hmm.
do, pay attention to. And
Hmm.
using meditation as a practice to help us quiet down so that we can choose what we want to focus on.
Yeah, yeah. And as you would say, that is so juicy.
Yes. It is juicy.
You better bring all that juiciness.
Yes.
Well, you are the founder and curator of the Right Within experience. Can you tell us about that? What is that?
Yes, I received a grant from the Katali Foundation. Shout out to the Katali Foundation, um, to create this mindfulness program for people of African ancestry. It's a day long program to reclaim our humanity, our joy, and our well being. Um, I created the program to address the reductionist views and impact of racism on people of African ancestry, and to really chart a path to flourishing, because it's racism that diminishes us and steals the precious joy out of life because we're just in this battle, and it steals the quality of life. What neuroplasticity does, and it assures us, is that with consistent meditation and mindfulness practices, we can not only reclaim our attention, but enhance our resilience, our imagination, our intuition, and our clear sightedness. And so, in together in community, I take people on a day long journey. Of the first thing is we illuminate the ancient African roots of mindfulness, and I teach the supporting neuroscience in an interactive learning way. We frame our current experience and history in a powerful and uplifting context. I say we got to come out of the victim vortex and being and doing this whole DEI journey, which is just a it has tremendous flaws, and many people do it in a vigilante way, which activates which does go takes us in the opposite direction. It activates our trauma and triggers. So we frame our current experiences and history in an uplifting context.
Mm-hmm.
And then we explore daily rituals and practices that help lower stress, elevate emotions that are associated with health and balance, and create a powerful inner pause to foster graceful presence and invite joy to arise. We sit quietly to learn how to rewire the brain. And so through the day of practices, we're meditating for liberation. I introduce HeartMath. We're doing journaling, self-compassion, loving kindness. Um, I I brought in a practice from Rasma Menakem, my grandmother's hands, the Entu Tree of Life practice, the whole notion of quiet sitting from Dr. Frank Staggers, 6 Habits of Happiness worth cultivating, and we rest. I'm a devotee of the NAP ministry, Trisha Hersey,
Mm-hmm.
Rest is Resistance, a manifesto. So we look at not fighting, but we look at what do we need to do to outsmart oppression, which is a wonderful phrase that I learned from the beautiful Dr. Joy DeCrue.
Mm-hmm.
Outsmart oppression.
Yeah.
And so this practice is about liberation is a lifestyle of love. That's one of the taglines. And how do we drop into self love and self care in such a way that we can open this portal to a liberatory lifestyle? So, right now, it's a day long. It may end up being something longer. And
Mm-hmm.
then people go away with a journal to do daily love notes to themselves. It has a recipe for bone broth and um, how to make tea and a bath and just things that help us to, once again, we're rewiring the brain and tending to the nervous system so that we have the ability to be strategic in our living
Mm-hmm.
and not be always in a framework of being so pugnacious. It's been my experience that people are rightfully angry. We are rightfully angry.
Yes.
We're rightfully angry. But you have to move past that, meaning tend to that,
Mm-hmm.
tend to the fractures in our souls so that we can really nourish ourselves for the quality of life that we are really meant to be, to live. Like people have this thing about Black excellence. Girl, I don't believe in that. We are designed. What you talking about? I'm designed. My design. Don't you remember? God looked at it, he said, it is good. I'm designed to be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
framework of Black's excellent is still with the white gaze. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
My basic human design wants to meet all of my potential and possibility. So all the great things that we have done is not always out of trying to be twice as good. Da, da, da. That's about them. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Mm-mm.
I'm excellent because that's how I dropped in to be that.
Excellent.
Excellent. I'm here
Excellent.
to meet what this design is what was coded for my system, coded for your system, coded for your baby's system. It's a unique brand of excellence. It's a reflection of God. Child, you can't be nothing else but that. Ain't got nothing to do with other people.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Well, how do you tap in? How would you tell someone, right? Like, how do you tell someone to tap into their excellence that already exists? Like, you don't have to go outside to find things to be excellent. You are excellent. How do you tap into that?
There's two things. One is quieting down.
Mm.
I know people won't see this, but I have this snow globe. So when you shake the snow globe, what happens? The snow is all over the place and it's just going crazy. This is how we live. My bracelet's shaking here, making noise, but I'm shaking the snow globe, everybody. And you see the snow just going round and round. But when you hold it still, what happens? It
Settles.
settles,
Yep.
settles, settles, settles. And then what happens? You have clear sightedness. You could see straight through the globe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is you must stop. If I'm driving my car and I'm going to make that turn, I don't accelerate to make the turn. I slow down to
Mm-hmm.
make the
Mm-hmm.
turn.
Mm-hmm.
So to pivot, you've got to slow down. The other thing is, and this comes straight from Dr. Naeem Akbar, one of the ways that we build our sense of uplifted identity is to look at those who are from your tribe who have done good. Mirror neurons, baby, is science. That's why it's important for our kids to see us and to see, oh look how that sister hair is. I can wear my hair like, oh look, because that's how the human being is designed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we absolutely look at those who have done excellent, who have taken their gifts and have done something with it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember praying one time. I have a picture of my grandfather on my refrigerator, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff? And I heard this still small voice say to me, and this is so Caribbean too, I didn't ask you to do all that. I didn't ask you to do all that. Go make something of yourself. Take what you've been given and make something with it. You got take your ingredients and make something. And I was like, okay, okay. Like, why are we trying to beat white people over the head, trying to convince them to be better? I mean, there is work. So don't get me wrong. There is a work
Right.
to be done.
Right. Right.
But part of it is settle up with yourself first before you start taking it on. I
Mm-hmm.
just see people take it on and they're so angry and they're so mean that what they end up doing is doing more harm than good. Yes, the anger is there, but you got to go underneath your own and you got to heal that. And that comes with loving kindness and tenderness and compassion. And
Mm-hmm.
then you bring that framework to the work. And I could tell white people the truth. And when I'm telling them the truth, honey, they just love it. You know why? Because I'm clear about myself. You didn't start it, I didn't start it, but hell, hey, let me just tell you how you're benefiting from this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and let me give you some examples of what has happened. And let me invite you into a better way of your humanity because you've been racialized too. There is no such thing as white.
Yeah.
You've been assigned that.
Yep.
You're in the matrix and you're assigned a role and you are playing it out. You are a pawn in the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when I've been invited to teach, I did a whole series at the San Francisco Zen Center. And they were like, the feedback that they gave me is I have never heard anyone talk about race in such a way that one, that I could actually hear it and that it wants it and that it forwards me into an action to challenge my biases, to challenge my beliefs, and to make the decision to pivot,
Mm.
to
Mm.
change.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been dealing with this for years and years and years and years. It's one of the my resident scholar on the Right Within experience, Dr. Amber McZeal. She reminded me we've been doing this for years. Some of these people have just now heard about it. They just heard what? They just now heard about it.
Yes. Right.
And,
Right.
and so part of us want to just be smacking them upside the head. But however, what good does that do? None.
Right.
She said, so there's an element of compassion
Mm.
that we need to have
Yeah.
and give them the space to do what they need to do. Well, while they're doing what they need to do, girl, I got me a life to live. I got flowers to buy.
Right, and put them
I,
all over your home.
I got stuff to, you know? So it's identifying for me what is my role in the game? What my skills, talents, and abilities? How do I use it
Mm-hmm.
in contribution for my people? So that led me to the Right Within experience, which is my love letter to us,
Mm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm asked to speak to white folks, I tell the truth, but my underlying essence and vibration is love. I'm going to invite you up to something higher. Now, if you get, I know what to do if you get stupid, but we don't have to. We don't have to start out there.
Right, we come with compassion and love.
We come with compassion and love because liberation is a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's a way of being. It's an
Yeah.
embodiment. And it's an understanding that I am from the people that are the first people of all humanity. So my model and my example makes a difference. I have to clear my channel first. I have to heal me first. I have to address my trauma and my heartache and my bellyache first.
First. Yeah.
And then when I have done that, then I am a clear channel to do whatever it is I'm called to do. Everybody's not called to address racism,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
you know? Alvin
Yeah.
Ailey was called to make beautiful dances,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I believe that we're all called to do stuff, and it may not look like stuff on the large scale,
Yes,
but we all have a role to play.
yes,
I believe that wholeheartedly.
yes.
How often do you offer the programming, the Right Within? How often?
Good question. We just finished the series of pilots. So I did online, one to see how it translated online, and I did two in person.
Okay.
And now, moving into 2025, we will start to offer it. Haven't found what the rhythm is yet, but we're going to take it to the East Coast,
Ooh.
in person, East Coast. We're looking at Black History Month 2025. And I am looking then to engage another funder
Mm-hmm.
so that I can do it with consistency without asking people to pay for it. So that's what I'm looking at next. Otherwise, we will offer it under the banner of the N2 Wellness Center, which is in Oakland, which is culturally affirming therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nonprofit attached to Sankofa Holistic Counseling Services, which is another therapeutic organization that offers mental health therapy. So we're in this season of figuring out what is the best way now to generate it. But the pilots went very well. I needed to test it, needed to get feedback, needed to hear from people, needed to have a variety of folks in the audience, from the brother, who just works every day, to folks like Dr. Michelle Clark, a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see for the range of us, and how do we hear it? How does it feel? And get that feedback. And the feedback was most excellent. And I learned some things that I want to tweak, and that's what I've done. And we'll put the refined version out in person on the East Coast in February.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you say at your core you are a champion and an accelerator of human flourishing. What is
Yes.
that?
Well, I believe that we are here to flourish. And there's actually a whole study on human flourishing. But essentially, for me, what that means is stepping in to why I came here, why we're all here, why we came to this earth to play this earth game in
Mm-hmm.
these suits of flesh
Mm-hmm.
and on this beautiful planet. And I believe that there's flourishing. That's why I love flowers, because it's that little bud, and then it blossoms, and opens. So it's the path to blossoming. It's the path to fully becoming. It's the path to meeting power, potential, possibility. When you hold a little baby, I saw this picture once of Malcolm X when he was a child. And I looked into that beautiful little face and I said, nobody knew who was in there. They did not know who was in that little face. Who was behind that little face. When we hold our children, I used to say this to my son when he was an infant: who are you in there? Who are you? And I think that is the path for us to commit, take radical responsibility for our own, and then commit to be an aid, a co-sojourner, um, a lover, a supporter, an encourager for others. So it's being on the path of flourishing, of meeting our potential and our possibility. That's what it means to me.
Mm, that is as poetic as it can be, right? Well, you are retired.
Woo,
Well,
baby.
sort of like you're retired from the entity of going to work every day, 9 to 5, 10 to 6, 8 to 4, whatever. You are retired from that. And when we met, it was so funny because you're like, I'm retired. And I said, oh, that's where I'm trying to go. Straight to retirement. How has it been treating you? What have you been, besides creating all these programs, what have you been doing?
Well, I started the Right Within experience actually while I was working.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that while I was working. It grew over COVID. I got the grant in 2019, and it was just this really slow, meandering, loving process, bringing in people, talking, piloting little bits of the content, and really slowing myself down, which was so challenging because I've been groomed on this productivity system that you get a grant and you produce, and thankfully this funder um, is not like that. And I had the space to slow down, to meet my own grief. I lost a brother in the process. My program communication director, he lost a sister in the process. We just had to be with our lives.
Right.
So, coming into concluding my career in public health, that's what I did. I concluded my career in public health. I am still on the path of finding what is the best pace for
Mm,
myself.
mm,
I take on this phrase called dolce far niente, and it means sweetness of doing nothing.
mm,
And
mm,
so I'm experimenting with how do I slow it down and enjoy these little the space between notes and just be and do a little of nothing. And it is and so I'm rewiring my system. So that's one of the things I'm up to is rewiring my system.
yeah.
And then because people are still calling, um, I am learning a new curriculum right now for Search Inside Yourself Global called Intuitive Leadership, which
Mm,
builds on the mindfulness work.
mhm,
And I will pilot for them um, that program at the end of the month for a nonprofit in LA. And that looks at how to confront our biases by listening to our bodies.
mhm.
So that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
And and I'm on the advisory board of Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, and been working with my husband with N2 Sankofa. We got a piano. I'm going to learn how to play piano. I'm going to learn Spanish.
Oh,
I'm going to get back to dancing somehow, some way. Like there's the list. There's life to be lived, right? There's
yeah.
just more life. And so when that's why I say I've closed a volume, the
Mhm,
volume that required that I work for someone, that
yes.
I be in a salary for service
Mm,
engagement. And I cannot tell you the level of gratitude that I have that I'm in a position that if I don't ever want to work again for anything, I don't
yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
So that part, that
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that I am going to do, my next course, if you will be called 6 Decades of Treasured Wisdom. Because young women ask me all the time, you're beautiful. You sis, no, you're not 67, girl. Yeah, I am, girl. Yeah. They're like, what do we do? How do we do? But it was this one question. I was on somebody's program, and this beautiful young sister said to me, in all earnestness, she said, how do I love myself? And
Mm,
it kind of took me aback. And I said, that is a very good question. And
mm,
it would be unfair of me to give you a soundbite. Like, here are the top 5 things you need to do, girl.
yeah.
I'm not doing that. I said, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to develop a course for younger women to explain and share what I have understood about the life course 20s, 30s,
Mhm,
40s, 50s, 60s. My mom's 92, so I have a view for
yeah.
what it takes to get to that. Because I said, you don't have to start from scratch. You have me. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. And take from the offering whatever seems resonant with you. It's not a prescription, but it's an invitation. But I'm going to share some of the things that I have experienced, some of the research, because I believe in the scholarship and the spirit work. And so that's going to be my next thing, 6 Decades of Treasured Wisdom. I just ran into these two sisters in Trader Joe's, and I don't know how we got in this conversation. I said, I'm going to offer that. And they're like, we're interested. We're interested. So I said, oh, okay. Here's my card, you know, because young women, this world is complex. We call it VUCA in Search Inside Yourself. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's
Mm,
complex, it's ambiguous, and we help a sister out. Help a sister out. I say that all the time to my husband. Help a sister out. So I'm gonna help a sister out
by creating a course.
by creating a course of sharing, offering that will give you some of the gems and milestones. Now, how do you get to 67 and handle your finances in such a way that you won't have to, excuse me, work until 75?
Whew. Wow.
So I'm going to cover finances. I'm going to cover relationship.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm going to cover sexuality, the
Mhm.
sacred sex. We are, and as a woman who teaches the Bible, this is like heck of taboo. Excuse me, I just needed a little drink.
Mhm. Because it's so taboo, you got choked up.
I tell you, girl, look. No, I'm very clear. It is so taboo. We can't talk about our bodies. We
Yep.
can't talk about our longings and desires. We
Mhm.
can't talk about our juiciness. And
Mhm.
how do you handle that
Yep. Yep.
as you are moving from girlhood to womanhood? What do you put around that? How do you engage with whoever you want to engage with
Mhm.
such that your heart is not broken? Because you know, as soon as you engage in physical intimacy, the bonding hormones are going off. And next thing you know, you open your eyes and you're bonded to an idiot, and you're like, damn, I can't stand him. I can't stand her. And now I can't seem to unhook. Look, I've worked with young women for 17 years. This is my jam. I This is my jam. There are certain things you need to know about your operation, your mechanism,
Right.
your design, and there's certain things you need to know about the context that your design is thrown in, so
Mhm.
that you have a better opportunity and chance to make good decisions. And then if you don't make a good one, how to recover without losing your mind, losing yourself.
Mhm.
So that's the stuff I'm going to teach. And
Yeah.
it will be threaded with mindfulness, liberation as a lifestyle of love. It will be threaded with the principles from the sacred text, the Holy Bible, but not from empire Christianity. There's a difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what my studies and my second degree in theology, et cetera, has taught me.
Yeah.
So, girl, I can't wait. See, when you're
Well, are
public,
you gonna? Huh?
well, when you're in the public sector, you can't speak this level of truth,
You're
right?
right. 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 Absolutely. Well, are you gonna go over skincare?
I want to do all the things:
Okay.
beauty,
Yes.
hair.
Right.
Because I was diagnosed with alopecia. I have a scarf on today, but I did not lose my hair, thank God. And I need to
Mhm.
explain to sisters about what you need to do, the inflammation that happens, how what you need to eat,
Mhm.
um, uh, how do you move past, how do you use Western medicine as a platform for some basics and go past that.
Mhm.
I will bring in speakers that are so-called, experts
Yeah.
who have professionals in their fields,
Mhm.
so that people can have a banquet, a smorgasbord of of juicy information that they can
Right.
that they
Right.
can pick from. Because one of the things that I've done a lot of work in feminine women's work, feminine energy, da da da. And one of the things, as I've gone from experienced different teachers, is that I I am not dogmatic. I lay out, like, what is your baseline? There's a baseline to
Mhm.
achieve some good health. There's some basic things you need to do.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
magnesium, vitamin D, sunshine, some hydration, I mean, that's just like everybody. Then there
Mhm.
are some other very specific things that are very specific to what your particular health profile is.
Mhm.
And that's what I'll be giving people direction or offering them opportunities to discover that. to go out and be curious about that, and then to come back and to then put together their particular framework and profile. So what is your basics, and then how now, Miss Jenee, how do I add on? Who do I need to talk to? So I got all the people, girl. Look, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help a sister out.
You're gonna help us.
You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to start from scratch. And I've been fortunate to have my mother for so many years. So I did not start from scratch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to watch, well, how do you get to 92 and still drive your car? Okay. Now there's some genetic uh, support there, but it's not all genes. It is about well-being and care. And I remember on her 69th birthday, I asked her. She was 69, I was 44, my son was 5. And I said, "Mom, what's your advice?" And she said to me, "You have to pace yourself." She said, she looked at my son. She said, "You see that little boy? You have a long way to go with him.
Hmm.
And you have to pace yourself. If you've got a lot going on in the morning, do not stack yourself at night. If you're going to have a very active evening, have an easy morning.
Hmm.
Like, how they say, don't burn the candle at both ends."
Right.
Which goes right into what Trisha Hersey talks about, is the rest, is resistance. This productivity, high volume, grind culture way that has infiltrated everything that we do is so debilitating. And it is what kills us softly. One of my good friends said to me, beautiful mindfulness teacher, this was one of her wake up calls. I think when she was dating her husband, he said to her, "You are so busy, it is unattractive." And she said that just threw her. "I am so busy, it's unattractive." She said, I gotta change that energy.
Hmm. Whew. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are, as I said, you are Miss Jenee. You are my elder.
Oh, you are so sweet. Thank you.
And as you know, I've talked about this on the show, is there's a difference between being an elder and just being an older person. And in my life, in my family, I have a bunch of older people, but not a bunch of elders.
Mm.
And so for me, there is a significant difference. But I wanted to ask you, is what does elderhood mean to you? Who has taught you to be an elder?
Well, I think I've been very fortunate to have a lot of elders in my life,
Mm.
men and women, but a lot of women. And because my family are people who migrated and immigrated, many of them came from root cultures, earthy cultures. And the women in from the Caribbean, they came and they worked as domestics, but on their days off, girl, they had their jewelry, their lipstick, they dressed up, and they went to the Savoy Ballroom and they danced. And then they came home and they cooked together. So I learned watching them that there is this way of being. It's a beingness that you tend to yourself, and and you tend to those that are coming behind you, not with disdain, but with love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always felt so welcomed by them. My godmother, I called her Diva, because, honey, into her 80s, she was wearing, I can't even wear these kind of shoes. Her high heel shoes, she wore them 3-inch heels, child. And she would clack me to the World Trade Center, and we go to the top of the World Trade Center and have lunch.
Mm.
These women were not, they didn't have a lot of money, but they had style and they had a sense of presence. And what my mother says, she says, we were poor with dignity.
Hmm.
And so that's what I learned. I learned that eldership is about dignity, and it's about understanding who you are and from whence you have come. There's an element of tremendous gratitude and humility, and there is an element of fierceness and clear-sightedness. You have moved past foolishness.
Yes, I
You
hope so.
Well, that's the difference between just aging
Yes.
and becoming an elder, one that those behind you can depend on, can can depend on for wisdom, can depend on for some insight, can depend on for acceptance and love.
Yeah.
I'm a mom of a young adult. He doesn't do everything I say, girl. But the wise woman
Mm-hmm.
understands the path of becoming,
Yeah.
and I can drop the gem and I could say, well, if I were you, here's the path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you get tired of bumping your head, then you know what to do.
Right. But I
But in
said
the
that 6 months
meantime,
ago.
right, I will still love you.
Yeah.
We're going out to dinner tonight
Mm-hmm.
because he's a foodie, and we're going to this little Michelin star restaurant he found. uh, I still love you, and I fully accept you, and I fully accept your journey is yours.
Mm-hmm.
This is what eldership does. It doesn't lord over. It's empowerment, it's power with, because I'm on my own journey. I already been where you are, and I am where you trying to get. And I understand it's fraught with rocks and bumps. My role is to try to help you um, alleviate some of the struggle. But sometimes the struggle is exactly what you need, so you could see it,
Mm-hmm.
so that you could take that message into your elderhood. So that's what I think the elder is. I call myself a wise woman, and I have put away all foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
There's no room or time because you are aware of the brevity of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, tell me, what is liberation to you? You've said it several times throughout this podcast.
Mm.
But when you think about liberation and being your full liberated self, what does that look like? How do you embody that? How do you present?
I think for me, liberation is in line with sovereignty and agency,
Mm,
where I have the where I have the presence and presence of mind to hold myself and my desires and longings as valuable and important.
mhm,
And when I can set up the boundaries, not barriers, but when I can set up it's a sacred circle around what is important to me. And so my liberation is, I think, not a destination like ta-da, we done, voila, voila. It is a continuation. It's a continuum. That's a better word. It's a
mhm,
continuum of being
yeah,
where you continue to discover your sovereignty, your your agency. But there is a place of consciousness that you arrive at,
mhm, mhm,
that I do belong to myself. I belong to myself. I am in a loving marriage. We are a unit. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. I have different relationships, but the most important relationship is the intimacy that I have with myself and with God.
mm,
And that is where liberation begins, when you own that. And when my desires come up, I was so funny. I was on a wonderful retreat with some sisters and very health conscious. And the sister was like, and we're in Costa Rica. This was another Costa Rica trip.
No.
My God, you know, the coffee in Costa Rica is the bomb, right? It's the bomb. The guy said it's like one of the top 25 coffees produced in the country, in the world. So I was like, oh, I can't wait to drink the coffee in Costa Rica. She said, well, I don't really want you all drinking coffee because it's not good for your nervous system. No, 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 no. We can't do that, sis. Now I get you have a particular way of approaching health, and I am willing to go along with the vegan meals and all that. But I'm gonna have my coffee, and the chef is making coffee, and she said, anytime you want coffee, just come with your cup.
Right.
And it turned into a thing. But what was underneath it for me, it's not coffee, it's my sovereignty. It's
Yeah.
me belonging to myself. It's me saying that this is my desire and I will fulfill it. And it's not harming anyone. Um, it's not rogue. It's not a girl. It ain't a sin.
Ain't taboo.
It ain't taboo.
Yeah.
You know, it's coffee, boo.
Oh, you gotta trademark that as well. Put that on a shirt.
Oh, what? It's coffee, boo.
It's coffee. Yeah.
And it became for me symbolic, if you will, of the conversation of sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you know, and so that might seem like a somewhat, you know, trite, trivial example, but I think all too often women um, submerge their desires, their
Yeah.
what they really want, to fit in, to feel accepted, to go along with, in a number of instances, to be a good sport.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I'm done with that. If my belonging requires that I deny myself,
Mm.
I need to belong somewhere else because I
Mm-hmm.
first belong to myself.
Right.
And
Right.
it's the diminishment um and the denial of those desires, and not paying attention to those messages that your body is giving you, that is the stuff that piles up and takes us out. It doesn't happen overnight, it is over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I am done with that.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there. So I know how to hold a sister through that.
Yeah.
Girl, I know. I
And
know.
and it's just coffee, boo.
And it's just coffee, boo. And sometimes the stakes are going to be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're going to be higher. But when you practice with the little things, that's how you build the muscle to be able
Mm-hmm.
to take the stand for the things that are really, really high stake.
Absolutely.
That you may have to take a stand with your family, within your marriage. How do you take that stand without um what is that, being a scorned woman? How do you hold with the dignity and say, you know, I understand that
Mm-hmm.
that means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
But let
Mm-hmm.
me tell you what means something to me. And so I am a no. And this is a big practice for me because, honey, I'm a New Yorker. And the first thing we do is we talk loud. We're loud. And so I have had to be, I'm having building more range. That's what I'm saying. Because I still talk, I still speak very loudly at times because that's how we are. That's part of my culture.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm building more range because sometimes it's more powerful just to just say quietly,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, you can do that. That's lovely. But me, I'm going to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
give people a chance to just be with that. And then they'd have to deal with their own triggers. You're not responsible for that. You're just responsible for managing yourself. And that is part of moving into eldership, becoming a wise woman.
Mm.
I am older. I am not young. I am youthful. I am zestful. I am, I have vitality,
Yes.
and I watch my mom. She's 92. She's the same way. She's youthful. She's zestful. She has vitality at 92.
Mm-hmm.
But she's not a young woman. We're not young women. I
Right.
was a young woman once, and that was fun. It had a, look, the caterpillar is no less than the butterfly. It's
Mm.
one journey. That's part of what I'll be teaching in this. I think the butterfly is going to be the icon for this program because the butterfly cannot happen without the stage of the caterpillar crawling on the ground, munching on the leaves, then
Mm-hmm.
spinning a cocoon and becoming goo, going in the down. There's
Mm-hmm.
a part of our journey that's like that. It's just damn dark. It's just damn dark. The dark
Yeah.
feminine is damn dark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we be with that?
Yeah.
And then we find our way. And then um, I went to a butterfly farm in Costa Rica, and you see the little butterfly punching, little by little punching. And you don't want to mess with that. You need to let them do their own thing because then you'll kill it essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And they punch their way out and fly. It's all part of the journey. And as a wise woman, what I have learned is how to hold all parts of the journey as sacred and how to hold a sister through every part of the journey because I've been there, I've done that, I understand to some degree, not everything, but to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. I understand the angst, I understand the worry, the wringing of the hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you feel really hot and juicy and there ain't nobody in sight. Taking me to this. What stuff? What? What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, girl, we're going to talk about everything.
Right, because you know the nuances. That is, you
Yes,
know the
yeah,
nuances and the complexities. You may not know the experience per se, but
yes,
there's the nuances and complexities of being a young person, a young woman, and
yes,
then going through those stages of life. You understand that.
yes. And I feel so honored that God has put that on my heart to share.
Mm-hmm.
There's another value that I have in my work, and that's generosity. Generosity. I try to be generous first with myself, not to skim and skip and be skimpy and be scarce.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I try to live generously for myself, and that when I'm with others, to do the same to the best of my ability. And that's an extension of compassion, is to see that somebody else is suffering and to want for them
Yeah.
and to contribute if you can. Sometimes it's just not available to, and sometimes it's not even right to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to know, oh, when is it that I step forward? I was crossing the street a few weeks, months and months ago, and the light was so slow. So a bunch of people were piling up on the sidewalk waiting for the light to change. And out of the periphery, I could feel this elder. So she was older than I. I could feel her. It was hard standing. So she took two fingers because there was a garbage can there because she didn't want to just rest on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could feel her just put her little two fingers there, just trying to find a way to hold, because the light was so slow. So when the light changed, I put my arm out akimbo and I said, would you like to me to help you? And she said, oh, thank you. You're so sweet. And she held on to me to walk across. I sensed her in my energetic field. that there was a struggle there. And I could do something about it. Hey, you want to hold on? She said, thank you so much. See, this is how I think we're designed to live. If we can be a contribution, be a contribution. Because the cycle is what you give, you're going to get back. The reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
What goes around comes around. That's a part of our culture. We know that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've lived there were times when I didn't have a lot of money. There were times when I was like, oh my goodness, how we going to, but somehow it all comes together. And you're just like, I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even know. I don't even know how that happened. I don't even know how that happened. I don't even know what. Because because it's an energetic. And so these are principles. I think part of what I'll be teaching is life principles,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, for how we thrive and flourish.
Yes, yes. Well, I first of all, I appreciate you so much. And
Thank you.
one of the things that I was saying when we were in Costa Rica, I was like, look at Naomi Campbell.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Because Village, you can't see her,
Oh,
but Miss
mm.
Jenee is absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
And she is tall. You're like 6 feet tall.
I am 6 feet tall, yes.
And Miss Jenee enters a room with a
Mhm.
sachet. And every time I would see her throughout the day, Miss Jenee had a new outfit on. I said,
No.
and I was in there sweating, sweltering. I was like, I looked like who shot John and what for? And you would come out, I mean, blowing in the breeze. I was like, there is no breeze. I don't know.
Uh-uh. You exaggerate.
I didn't see not a sweat. Like I didn't
Girl,
see.
it was hot down there. It was hot. Yes, it
It
was.
was hot. I didn't see a ruffling of the outfit. You were. I said, "Oh, here comes Naomi. Here she comes."
Mhm. No, no,
Because
no. But I'm not gonna let you get away with that because you, Missy, wore that fly jumpsuit with the tiny, tiny spaghetti
oh,
strap
and I bought there.
that you bought. And you, honey, you was wearing that. With you was juicy as can be with your locks, and then sometimes you roll them up. No, 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 sister. No, 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 no. You was my reflection. You was rocking it. Don't listen to her, y'all. Don't listen to her.
I was
Uh-uh.
hot. I said. I told my.
You managed the hot. You said this is how you dress when you hot
I
and
told
hot.
my. I told my Nia crew. I think it was Ashanti. I said. I can't do another bra. I can't. I can't. I went through, I think, 20 pairs of underwear that week. I said, what in the
Yeah, it's hot.
world?
Yeah, it's hot. No, but you were rocking that jumpsuit, sis.
You
You
ended
look.
up buying three.
Yeah, I did too. I did too. Finally, at the end, I figured out, why don't you wear that? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I was burning up. But I just appreciate your grace and your
Thank
kindness
you.
and your hugs. And
Mm.
just, I mean, you are absolutely, I cannot wait to this 60s womanhood step by step because I'm like, are you teaching skin routine?
I'm going to teach everything. I'm going to have it all because we are it all.
Yes.
We're it all.
Mm, mm.
But thank you so much for seeing me
Yes.
and for your kindness and um, for our time together. You are a joy to be with, and it's so fun to talk to you and to laugh with you. You have a light heart. You have a joyful heart. And sis, I'm going to tell you right now, that is one of the keys to aging well. Keep your heart light.
Thank you. I can't
Mhm.
wait till you come back and share about your book.
I look forward to that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Okay. Well, I will be talking to you soon
Absolutely.
because we
Thank
have
you.
some catching up to do.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, love and light.
Love and light. Coco.
And Grandma Coco.
No, not even grandma, just straight
Oh,
Coco.
you just straight Coco? Mm-mm. I
Straight
wouldn't.
Coco.
I wouldn't expect nothing less. Bye.
Blessings to you. Thank you.
You too. Bye bye.